Small indie games don't usually pique my interest, but there hasn't been one that captures my attention quite like Lunistice. Its colorful world and fast-paced platforming harkens back to an era when mascot platformers had a dominating presence in the gaming scene, while also bringing enough of its own flair to stand out from the titles that influenced it. Much like Metroidvanias falling somewhere on the Metroid or Castlevania influence spectrum, I find that indie 3D platformers have a similar paradigm. Most tend to lean towards an old-school collectathon approach like Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie, with progress being tied to collectibles hidden across a non-linear sandbox-styled stage, whereas the games inspired by Sonic pick and choose parts of the Hedgehog's history to extrapolate from. With a focus on encouraging the player to master its controls in order to get higher ranks over repeat playthroughs, Lunistice falls much closer to the Sonic side of that spectrum, particularly reminding me of the more vibrant, abstract levels of that series. Each world is split up into 2 acts, with the first establishing mechanics that are ramped up in the second. These stage-specific mechanics, like the vines that act like grind rails in Sonic Adventure 2, or gusts of wind that knock you off your path, are used in a way that incentivizes skillful play, such as chaining jumps out of these bubbles to reach hidden collectibles. Speaking of which, I really appreciate the developers' use of cranes, this game's version of coins. They're really thoughtfully placed in ways that lead to hidden items, signal optional routes, and where to attack certain groups of enemies. There's also little to no cheap placement that requires backtracking. Using the alternate pathways to get all the collectibles will end with you merging back onto the main path, but you never miss anything on the main pathway if you do this. This incentivizes the players to keep finding the branching paths in order to collect everything in the level, and since you're not missing collectibles by using said pathways, it makes repeat playthroughs that get everything in one go more compelling. It also helps that just moving around in this game is fun in and of itself. Jumps feel like they're right in that sweet spot between being too floaty or too heavy. You're given a spin attack that's similar to the one in Mario Galaxy, and it serves as a third jump that can really save you when you screw up on some of the tougher platforming challenges, and you'll need that cushion considering how fast you can move through these levels. The controls are responsive, and the button layout utilizes an intuitive twin-stick control scheme that I wish more platformers used. Your jump and spin attack are mapped onto the left and right bumpers, freeing up your right thumb to stay on the right stick, giving you complete control of the camera while moving at all times. Not only is it useful for spotting cranes across the level, it also helps with repositioning yourself as platforming intensifies in the mid to late game. You can still jump and attack with the face buttons if you want, but I've had my thumb strain from using buttons in platformers before, especially in Sonic games. But this new system feels much more comfortable in the hands. It's almost like having an ergonomic claw grip, and I think that's something new players should really consider, if for nothing else, than having constant access to the camera. And you'll be needing to mess with the camera a lot, because Lunistice has plenty of hiccups in that department. There were several times where a good automatic camera could have chosen clearer, more effective shots. Sometimes the lack of an auto camera actively screws you over by pointing your vision the complete opposite direction that it's supposed to, and it's at its worst when trying to precisely jump on tiny platforms over bottomless pits, which this game asks you to do a lot. These issues really come to a head in the fourth world, since it has a gimmick where different colored platforms appear and disappear based on a cycle, and you're almost always doing it over bottomless pits. When the pace picks up in 4-2, you start to realize that the platforms alternate faster than your character can move, so you're awkwardly falling behind the beat like Willie Nelson singing at a concert. This mechanic might not be Mega Man reappearing disappearing blocks level of bad, but considering they're constantly forcing a life or death scenario each time they show up, they're pretty close. I'd also add that with the constant use of tiny strips of platforms, the only dickish crane placements in the game, and this droning swing song make me feel like I've been put in solitary confinement in the trunk of a clown car. I'll go ahead and spoil it for you now that the crane you're probably missing in 4-2 is located at the bottom of this cake at the final turn before the goal ring. Maybe I'm just a dumbass who needs to play the game gooder, but I find the fourth world to be a surprising low point in an otherwise great game, and it's definitely one worth replaying. Lunistice lifts the ranking system from the Sonic series to encourage you to collect everything in the level as fast as possible. Getting every collectible in a level nets you access to log entries that expand the story, which read like they were written by a Starbucks barista tweeting out their hot takes on a bathroom break.
How dare you!
Just for some closing notes, the game doesn't have any bosses. For a $5 release that can be beaten in under 5 hours, I can't say I blame the developer for not including any, and for such a short game, I didn't miss them as much as I thought I would. 100%ing the game with the main character unlocks 2 more playable characters with different spins on the main gameplay, a la Sonic or Mario, which is a great way to keep getting more out of the levels that are here. The presentation is also incredibly charming, as the game explicitly references the early 3D look of the PS1 and Sega Saturn, even including this pixelated filter to try and sell the look. I've seen some other retro-inspired games and remakes try to do this, but I think taking modern graphics and slapping a pixel filter on it kinda ignores the artistry that went into those old games and their graphical limitations. Unless a game is specifically designed with pixel art in mind, I just don't think these filters have any business being in modern titles. Thankfully, Lunistice lets you turn this filter off, and it makes a world of difference. The colors are vibrant, characters are appealing, and the animation gives each action a proper sense of weight. My favorite is landing a spin attack on a bunch of enemies at once and getting to hear the crunch every time. Hell yeah, dude. The music was done by the artist Lunistice, who specializes in making energetic, upbeat soundtracks, and it suits the game very well. Some of the earlier songs tend to meld together though, but there are some standout tracks like the themes for World 5, 6, and the title screen. I do wish there was more variety present, because the music does hit some fairly high peaks, but that doesn't mean the whole package should be ignored. Platformers in particular are extremely competitive in the music department, so looking at the soundtrack in its entirety, I'd say it's above average, which for a small indie game is nothing to sneeze at, especially considering if this YouTube comment from the composer is to be believed, the game's music was completed in only a couple months under a tight deadline. It should also be noted that there's a free DLC in the works for Lunistice that's been in development for a while now, that plans to introduce new characters, stages, an overhauled character design, and a lot more, making this review immediately dated in the process. But considering how much time and polish has gone into the new update, especially with the delays, I do wonder whether that time could have been better spent making a complete sequel instead. For a $5 game, I wasn't expecting to have as much fun with Lunistice as I did. It really feels like a greatest hits album of some of the best 3D platformers of the 5th and 6th generations, and its influence from Sonic the Hedgehog in particular made me feel right at home. I've never reset stages after one minor mistake this much since Sonic Adventure 2. The drive to complete a perfect run is just that much fun. This seems to be the first game ever released by this developer, and if this game's any indication, I'd say there's plenty of promise in all of their future projects. If you haven't played it yet, and you like hyperactive furries jumping across the screen, well, Lunistice is the perfect game for you. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all again in 2026, when I put out my annual video about an obscure game with a furry protagonist nobody cares about. I can stop when I want to, damn it!
You're smoking filtered crack, you stupid piece of shit. I'll fucking kill you. Call that pussy the Matrix, 'cause I'm in this bitch and I can't get out.